There's something strange that happens in almost every room. The loudest people are usually the ones everyone
So,
notices
as I was
first.
saying, the key is
The confident
recognizing our
ones,
message.
the
We need to
ones who
focus on this
speak
part and
quickly,
understand the
the
whole
ones who
concept.
seem to fill the
So, I was
silence
thinking we could start a
before it
new
even
community project.
appears. But
It'll be a
somewhere in
lot
that
of fun
same
to bring
room,
everyone together.
there's often someone
What is it?
else, someone
Tell me.
quieter.
I don't know.
They're not
You can
trying
tell
to
me
dominate the
anything. What's
conversation. They're
important?
not rushing to speak. They're watching, listening. And somehow they seem to understand things that others completely miss. If you've ever been that quiet person, you probably know the feeling. You walk into a room, and within minutes, you can sense things most people won't notice all night. Who feels uncomfortable, who is pretending to be confident, who is forcing a smile, who is hiding frustration behind polite words. And sometimes it's almost confusing because you're not trying to analyze people, you just notice. Imagine a typical conversation in a group. Someone tells a story, people laugh, another person interrupts with their own story. The conversation moves quickly, jumping from one topic to the next. To most people, it feels normal, but the quiet person notices something else. The slight pause before someone answers a question, the way someone avoids eye contact when a certain topic comes up, the moment someone laughs half a second too late. These are small things, almost invisible, but they tell stories. Pause for a moment and think about this. When people are talking, how many of them are actually listening? Not waiting for their turn to speak, not thinking about what they will say next, just listening. Very few. Most conversations are a kind of silent competition. Who can speak next? Who can be heard? But quiet people often do something different. They observe before they respond, and that changes everything. When you speak less, your attention goes somewhere else. Instead of focusing on what you're going to say, you start noticing what others are doing. You notice body language, tone shifts, moments of hesitation, contradictions between words and emotions. It's like watching two conversations happen at the same time, the one people say out loud and the one happening underneath it. For example, someone might say they're doing great, but their shoulders look tense. Their smile fades quickly. Their voice sounds slightly tired. Most people accept the words. The quiet person notices the gap, and that gap reveals more truth than the sentence itself. But here's something important. Quiet people usually aren't trying to read people like a puzzle. It's not a strategy, it's a habit that forms over time, often without them realizing it. Sometimes it begins early in life. Imagine growing up in an environment where emotions matter. Maybe tension in the house meant something bad might happen. Maybe someone's mood could change the atmosphere of the entire day. So you learned something subtle. Pay attention, watch carefully, notice small signals, because understanding people helped you stay prepared. Over time, observation became second nature. But there's another reason quiet people notice things others miss. Silence creates space. When you're not filling every moment with words, your mind has room to process what's happening around you. You see patterns, you notice details, you connect pieces that others overlook. Think about a crowded conversation again. Someone talks loudly, another person interrupts, someone else changes the topic quickly. In the middle of that noise, important signals disappear, but the quiet person isn't trying to keep up with the noise. They're watching the pauses between it. Sometimes they notice who gets interrupted the most. Sometimes they notice who never finishes their sentences. Sometimes they notice the person who tries to speak but stops. Those small moments say a lot about confidence, about insecurity, about who feels comfortable and who doesn't. Here's where things get interesting because while quiet people notice a lot about others, others often misunderstand them. Silence is easy to misinterpret. Some people assume quiet means shy. Others assume it means disinterest or insecurity, but very often silence simply means awareness. The quiet person isn't always quiet because they have nothing to say. Sometimes they're quiet because they're thinking. Sometimes they're quiet because they're processing what they just noticed. And sometimes they're quiet because they already understand something the conversation hasn't reached yet. Pause for a moment and think about your own life. Have you ever noticed something about a situation long before anyone else did? A tension in a friendship? A change in someone's behavior? A feeling that something wasn't quite right? At first, you might ignore it because everyone else seems relaxed. But weeks later, the truth appears. And suddenly, the thing you noticed quietly in the beginning becomes obvious to everyone. This happens more often than people realize. Because quiet observation allows you to detect patterns early. You notice when someone's tone changes over time. You notice when someone slowly becomes distant. You notice when someone's confidence starts to fade. While others focus on the obvious moment, the quiet person sees the slow story unfolding underneath. But this awareness can also be heavy. When you notice emotions easily, you also notice pain easily. You see the person who feels left out. You sense tension in conversations. You detect when someone is pretending to be okay. And sometimes it's exhausting to carry that awareness quietly. Many quiet people learn something important over time. Not every observation needs to become a responsibility. Just because you notice something doesn't mean you must fix it. Understanding people is powerful, but you are not responsible for every emotion you see. There's also a quiet strength in observing before speaking. Because when someone who usually listens finally says something, people tend to pay attention. Their words carry weight, not because they speak loudly, but because they speak thoughtfully, and this leads to something surprising. Many quiet people eventually become the ones others trust most because people sense that they are being heard, really heard, not interrupted, not judged, just understood. In a world full of noise, that kind of attention is rare. So if you've ever felt like the quiet person in the room, the one who watches more than they speak, the one who notices small details others miss, there's nothing wrong with you. Your mind simply works in a different rhythm. While others focus on being heard, you focus on understanding. And sometimes understanding quietly reveals more truth than speaking ever could.